Many people wonder why, as they age, they often wake up around 3 a.m. and can't fall back asleep. In the silence and darkness, staring at the ceiling, they wonder about the reasons for this condition. In fact, this phenomenon is much more widespread than it seems and is not a random habit or an inevitable consequence of aging. This review will examine 5 key reasons why older people start waking up around 3 a.m. and what these early awakenings might actually mean. Each of these reasons reveals deep aspects of the body's condition, health, and life experience. By the end of this analysis, you may change your perspective on your own sleep. The explanations presented are based on real physiological, psychological processes and rhythms of aging that many are not even aware of. We will discuss hormonal changes, shifts in sleep cycles, health problems, as well as emotional and social factors that can have a hidden impact on sleep. All of this will be considered with due attention and respect for the life journey. So, if you've ever been awakened by a nightmare around 3 in the morning and wondered about the reasons for it, you've come to the right place. Don't miss a single detail. The information you receive will not only help you improve the quality of your sleep, but also allow you to understand more deeply the processes taking place in your body. Reason number 1: decreased melatonin production. One of the main reasons for nighttime awakenings, especially around 3 in the morning, is the natural decrease in melatonin production with age. Melatonin, the hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycles, is often called the body's internal clock. It plays an important role in the process of falling asleep and staying asleep. In youth, the body typically produced a stable amount of melatonin each night, ensuring prolonged, deep, and continuous sleep. However, over time, its production decreases, which can significantly affect sleep quality. You may still fall asleep easily in the evening, especially after a busy day or a relaxing evening. However, by early morning, around 2 to 4 o'clock, melatonin levels may drop so low that there is not enough to maintain sleep. Often, waking up in the middle of the night is not caused by external noise or a distressing dream, but by the gradual return of the brain to a state of wakefulness due to insufficient melatonin exposure. This phenomenon does not indicate any lifestyle errors or betrayal of one's own body, but merely reflects the natural changes in internal biochemistry that occur over time. Moreover, the bedroom environment can negatively affect sleep. Even minor light sources, such as a street lamp shining through the window, the flickering numbers of an electronic clock, or light from the hallway, can suppress melatonin production. With age, the body becomes more susceptible to external factors, making waking up in the early morning hours particularly unpleasant. As an example, consider the story of Harold, a 72-year-old man who had always enjoyed sound sleep. However, lately, he has been regularly waking up around 3:15 a.m. without experiencing any anxiety or worry, but simply feeling fully awake, ready for a new day. Realizing that the cause of his awakenings was not his personal failings, but the natural aging processes associated with melatonin production, Harold stopped blaming himself and began to change his habits. He now strives to create an atmosphere of deep night in the bedroom, avoids flickering screens of gadgets an hour before bedtime, and enjoys short evening walks to enhance his natural circadian rhythm. These simple transformations signal to the body that nighttime has arrived. And although early awakenings still sometimes occur, he has learned to live in harmony with his body, rather than confront it. This kind of awareness can turn everything upside down. When you realize that early risings are not a personal failure, but a consequence of natural chemical processes, you can direct your efforts to supporting your sleep, rather than scolding your own body. This is the power of mindfulness. It transforms disappointment into compassion and helps you make more informed decisions in caring for yourself. Reason number 2 lies in the shift of the circadian rhythm and the early sleep phase. Another significant factor explaining early awakenings in older people around 3 a.m. is the natural change in internal biological clocks, known as the early sleep phase. Over the years, circadian rhythms begin to shift forward, leading to an earlier feeling of drowsiness in the evening and, as a result, an earlier awakening in the morning. Have you ever noticed that an evening movie session inevitably lulls you to sleep, or conversely, waking up at dawn has become commonplace, even when you plan to linger in bed a little longer? These kinds of transformations are not just quirks of the body, but phenomena rooted in biology, the expression of which tends to increase with age. In youth, a person's biological clock is usually set to a later bedtime and wake-up time, as if following the sun in its unhurried movement across the sky. However, over time, this rhythm undergoes changes, and the sleep window predictably shifts to an earlier time. It is possible that sleep will begin to overcome you as early as 9 in the evening, or even earlier, against all desire to stay awake. As a result, by 3 in the morning, the body has already completed its sleep cycle and is ready to wake up. That's why suddenly waking up in the middle of the night, feeling fully awake, can become a reality, even when it's pitch dark outside. Don't panic and look for signs of illness. The body has simply switched to a new mode of operation. Imagine an internal chronometer that gradually rebuilds itself, moving slightly ahead of its previous rhythm with each season. There is nothing threatening about this, but such a restructuring can cause certain inconveniences, especially if lifestyle, family obligations, or personal preferences do not coincide with the new biorhythm. There is also a psychological aspect to this metamorphosis. Many older people enjoy life at a more measured pace or spend a significant amount of time in solitude. This lull intensifies the signals sent by the body, calling for relaxation and restoration of strength, which, in turn, encourages the body to prepare for sleep earlier than usual. In the absence of the usual hustle and bustle and sounds that previously pushed back bedtime, the body begins to switch to nighttime mode prematurely. Quitting full-time work and a strict daily routine also contributes to the shift in the internal clock, as external reference points, such as business meetings, commutes to work, and socializing with friends, disappear. As an illustration, consider 68-year-old Charles, who is on well-deserved rest. He usually eats around 5:30 in the evening, spends an hour in front of the television, and then goes to bed around 9 in the evening. By 3 in the morning, his body is naturally ready to wake up. He experiences no anxiety or tension, just wakefulness. Initially, he thought he was suffering from insomnia, but after learning about the early sleep phase, he realized that his sleep was fine, just that his regimen had changed. Charles began to make subtle changes to his evening ritual, immersing himself in reading by the soft light of a lamp, taking leisurely walks after dinner, and finding time for an encouraging phone call with his daughter before going to bed. These unobtrusive social and sensory stimuli helped him gradually expand the boundaries of his sleep window, bringing the moment of awakening closer to the dawn hours. As a result, nightly vigils at 3 a.m. became less frequent, and the feeling of being in harmony with the natural rhythm of life increased noticeably. This organic shift in the sleep cycle is a phenomenon well known to many older people, but rarely discussed openly. Accepting this fact allows you to get rid of feelings of guilt or confusion, allowing you to treat yourself and the changes taking place in your body with greater compassion and understanding. Therefore, if a sudden awakening around 3 a.m. is accompanied by a feeling of complete vigor, it is quite possible that the body has simply switched to a new operating schedule. And once that realization comes, it becomes possible to adjust your daily routine in such a way that it maximizes your well-being. Reason number 3, lurking in physical discomfort and sleep disruption due to health conditions is another common factor causing older adults to wake up at night. This is a peculiar reaction of the body to physical discomfort or hidden health problems, which become especially noticeable in the silence of the night. Over the years, the likelihood of encountering chronic diseases or subtle, as yet unexpressed symptoms steadily increases, and many of these ailments can disrupt sleep without sending sharp, alarming signals. night awakenings creep up unnoticed, like a nagging pain in a joint, a sudden urge to use the restroom, or back discomfort strong enough to interrupt sleep. Conditions such as arthritis can make prolonged sitting in one position extremely uncomfortable. A person may not experience pain at the time of falling asleep, but after several hours of immobility, the pain intensifies and wakes them up. Nighttime reflux can be a cause of waking up, especially if dinner was late or if someone went to bed right after eating. Even minor factors like dry mouth, muscle cramps, or a slight change in room temperature can cause waking in the early morning hours, when the body is more susceptible and less resistant to external influences. One of the most common physiological reasons older men wake up around 3 a.m. is the need to urinate. With age, the bladder loses its elasticity, and the urge to urinate occurs more frequently and quickly. During the day, a person may hardly notice this, as attention is diverted to other activities. However, in the silence and darkness of the night, this feeling becomes unbearable. As soon as a person gets out of bed and starts moving, even taking a short walk to the bathroom, their body instantly transitions from a state of deep relaxation to a state of light alertness. After that, it becomes much harder to fall back asleep. It's important not to forget about medications, which many older people take daily. Blood pressure medications, heart medications, pain relievers, all of these often have side effects such as frequent urination, fluctuations in body temperature, or increased sensitivity to noise and light. These factors can have a hidden but significant impact on sleep quality. A person may not even suspect that it is the medications causing their insomnia until someone points it out, or until they begin to analyze their habits more carefully. As an example, consider the story of Eleanor, a 76-year-old woman who had always been a light sleeper. For the past year, she had regularly woken up around 3:30 a.m. For a long time, she attributed this to age-related changes, but after talking to her doctor, she learned that one of the medications she was taking affected her body's hydration level and caused more frequent nighttime urges to urinate. With the support of a qualified physician, she adjusted her medication schedule and implemented some helpful changes in her daily routine, which made her night's sleep less interrupted. Even if awakenings occur, she notes that it is now much easier for her to return to slumber. It is important to realize that physical manifestations of waking are not evidence of a malfunction in the body. On the contrary, it speaks to its activity, responsiveness, and ability to adapt, sending signals that can be a starting point for a more attentive attitude toward oneself, making informed decisions, and strengthening trust in one's own body. Waking up at night, especially at 3 a.m., can cause discomfort, but sometimes it is a quiet call to mindfulness, encouraging you to listen to yourself, analyze what is happening, and make minor adjustments that can improve overall health and ensure better rest. Reason number 4 lies in lifestyle habits that affect sleep rhythm. Another significant but often underestimated factor explaining nighttime awakenings in older people is their established daily habits, small rituals, and preferences, which over time affect internal biorhythms. Often, older people switch to an earlier dinner, finish their evening activities earlier, and reduce their level of physical activity during the day. At first glance, these seemingly trivial changes gradually accumulate, sending the body an unambiguous signal. The onset of night is approaching, and therefore the morning awakening inevitably shifts to an earlier hour. In periods when the rhythm of life slows down, especially with the onset of well-deserved rest, the body loses its usual external landmarks which served as a reliable compass: morning trips, business meetings, mentally demanding activities. In the absence of these stimulating factors, the natural sleep-wake cycle may imperceptibly begin to shift forward. A serene evening, immersed in subdued light and devoid of any active pursuits, can provoke accelerated melatonin production in the brain. And so, a person begins to feel sleepy without even noticing how the hands of the clock have approached 9 in the evening. As a result, going to bed early naturally leads to premature completion of the sleep cycle, and awakening occurs in the ringing silence of the pre-dawn hours, often around 3 in the morning. There is also a subtle relationship between the timing of meals and the quality of nighttime rest. An early dinner is certainly beneficial for health, but it can trigger a drop in blood glucose levels at night, especially if you neglect a light snack before bed. This decline may not manifest as explicit hunger, but it can certainly disrupt sleep. Similarly, caffeine consumed even during the day can linger in the system, especially as metabolism slows with age, subtly making sleep lighter and more susceptible to external disturbances. Consider the case of Walter, 74 years old, who recently retired. Over time, his weekdays lost their former structure and his evenings became more relaxed. He started eating dinner at 5 o'clock in the evening, dozing off in his chair while watching the evening news, and going to bed before 9 o'clock. Without realizing it, he shifted his entire daily routine forward by several hours. Soon, he began waking up around 3 o'clock. In the morning, wondering why he was full of energy even before the birds started singing. After analyzing his day, Walter began making minor adjustments. He added a short walk during the day, read in the evening under bright light, and avoided short naps after dinner. These measures helped delay the onset of his natural sleep time slightly, and his body began waking up closer to the morning hours. It is remarkable how often people underestimate the power of habit. The human body needs rhythm, daily recurring signals that tell the brain when to rest and when to wake up. When these signals weaken or shift, the internal clock becomes disoriented and sleep becomes more fragmented and earlier. However, by noticing these patterns and making conscious adjustments, one can gently retune the body, returning it to a more restorative and less restless sleep pattern. The fifth reason for nighttime awakenings lies in a person's emotional and psychological state. It often happens that waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning is not so much due to physiological factors as to internal experiences. Over time, as the hustle and bustle of life recedes, deeply hidden emotional experiences may surface. In the silence of the night, when the world stands still and nothing distracts, the mind becomes an arena for unspoken anxieties, regrets, and hidden desires. A person may toss and turn in bed not because of physical discomfort or external noise, but because their mind is silently reviewing memories, unfinished thoughts, or a vague unease that they were not even aware of. This unease is different from youthful anxiety. It has a more calm, contemplative character. It can be compared to background noise, to a feeling of internal dissonance, even if it is difficult to pinpoint its source. When the mind is freed from external worries, it often turns to the past, to former relationships, decisions made, losses, and unspoken words. Since the body is no longer occupied with a continuous stream of activities, there is space in which these thoughts sound clearer. It is also important to consider that loneliness plays a significant role in this process. Over time, the social connections of many older adults undergo significant reduction. Adult children leave the parental home, friends become absorbed in their own concerns, and the usual daily routine undergoes changes. During the day, the dwelling may be filled with light and activity, but with the onset of night, silence reigns, bringing with it an acute awareness of internal emotional emptiness. This feeling of loneliness does not always manifest in a distressing form. Sometimes it is expressed in a simple need for communication, in a slight longing for a conversational partner with whom one could share the silence of the night. Consider, for example, Gloria, an 80-year-old widow. During the day, her time is filled with gardening, phone calls, spending time with her grandson, and watching her favorite television shows. However, around 3 o'clock in the morning, she often wakes up, and her thoughts return to moments spent with her late husband, or to anxieties that she tries not to show during the day. At first, she thought she was suffering from insomnia, but over time she realized that it was not a sleep disorder at all. It is her heart yearning to be heard. To support herself during this difficult period, Gloria started keeping a small journal, which she always keeps by her bedside. When she wakes up at night, she sometimes writes down her thoughts and feelings. These are not special entries, but simply a few sincere thoughts coming from the heart. In addition, she introduced soothing evening rituals into her life, listening to quiet music or writing a short letter to a friend. These small acts of self-reflection and maintaining connection with the outside world allow her emotions to find a gentle outlet, calm her mind, and help her fall asleep more easily. The truth is that the human heart beats to its own unfathomable rhythms. It carefully preserves cherished moments, poses important questions to us, and sometimes does this in the deep silence of the night when the whole world is asleep. But it's not a weakness, but rather evidence of inner depth. If a sudden awakening fills a person with reflections, perhaps it is a sign of wisdom maturing within them, striving for awareness. After all, behind each of us is a kaleidoscope of joyful and sad events that shape not only our memories, but the very essence of our personality. Instead of perceiving such nocturnal vigils as an annoying hindrance, it is worth looking at them with curiosity and kindness. What is our mind trying to convey to us? What requires our close attention? What part of our soul longs for warmth and care, even in the impenetrable darkness? Sometimes the most healing rest comes not when we dismiss these moments, but when we recognize their significance. And then perhaps we will find not only a more serene sleep, but also a deeper understanding of ourselves at this stage of life. In conclusion, it is proposed to spend some time in silence and reflect on what has been heard. Which words in particular resonated in the soul? Perhaps it is a shift in the internal clock, subtle changes in health, or something deeper, an emotional rhythm that manifests itself only in moments of calm. Each of these reasons gives an opportunity to take a fresh look at early awakenings, and none of them is a sign of malfunction or breakdown. Each of the mentioned reasons for nocturnal awakening clearly demonstrates how complex and continuously the human body and mind function, how actively they react to internal and external influences and adapt to them. Going through a certain stage of life, it is important to realize what the body is trying to convey, especially in the quiet hours before dawn. Instead of perceiving waking up at 3 a.m. as an unpleasant obstacle, you can begin to consider it as a kind of message, a delicate signal prompting you to listen to your needs, habits, and desires. It is important to understand that this is a common phenomenon, and many people are looking for answers to similar questions. However, awareness of the problem gives strength, and strength in turn provides the freedom to make small but significant changes that contribute to deeper sleep, a sense of comfort, and strengthening the connection with the body's natural rhythms. If at least one of these reasons resonated, remember that this is not just a sign of aging, but a sign of evolution. This evolution opens up the possibility of more conscious rest, more careful attitude to oneself, and meeting each new day with greater understanding and calmness. The unremitting pursuit of creating high-quality and inspiring content remains a priority. Sincere gratitude is expressed to viewers for their interest and time. The author hopes to meet soon in new video materials, promising to continue to delight the audience with interesting and informative work.